The harder you think about something, the less likely you are to remember it later on. The harder you try to remember something, the less likely you are to store it in long-term memory, and the harder you try to forget something, the more likely it is that it will be remembered. The mind is a tricky place, and its quirks challenge some of our own common-sense notions of how things work. It's almost as if by learning too much about psychology, the field itself becomes its own obstacle. Flushed skin means that someone likes you. Do you notice that your crush's cheeks are often flush? That could be a good sign. Blushing is an indication that someone likes you. You may have noticed this when you were on the receiving end of a joke, and while everyone laughed, they had their own reactions to it. Some squinted their eyes, others shifted in their seats, and a few blushed. Blushing shows that someone is being sincere with you. It can be an indication that the person is attracted to you. The same thing happens when a person lies and another person can tell. They get flushed because they know it's wrong, but the other person knows too. So the blusher feels embarrassed for getting caught in their lie. So take note of how people react around you. Does your crush turn red? If yes, then don't hesitate to ask them out. You can change people's moral beliefs by turning up the heating or air conditioning in a room. You can change people's moral beliefs by turning up the heating or air conditioning in a room. Experiments have shown that people in a warm room were more moral than those in a cold one. The theory is that warmth activates the part of the brain that makes us feel empathy for others. Turning on the air conditioner does make us more detached from others, making us less likely to be kind to our fellow man. So if you want to change someone's point of view and help them see your side of things, try taking them out for coffee or buying them lunch. Forgetting something makes it stick in memory longer than knowing it perfectly does. We tend to forget things, and when we do, we don't remember the memory of forgetting, if that makes sense, just the information. Forgetting something makes it stick in your mind longer than knowing it perfectly does. That's because when you go over something you already know, all that happens is that you strengthen the same pathways in your brain. When you forget information, new pathways are created to remember again what was forgotten. If a memory is stored in only one place, it's more likely to be lost forever. So having many different ways of remembering increases the likelihood of retrieval. You can make yourself fall asleep quickly using a technique called paradoxical intention. Have you ever tried to go to sleep, but just couldn't? You may have heard of paradoxical intention before. It's a technique you can use that tells your conscious mind to intentionally stay awake. The part of your mind that's doing the thinking will then be focused on the paradox instead of worrying about falling asleep. The resulting distraction will make it easier for you to fall asleep quickly. Your desires depend on where you live. A person's environment can affect their choices, including those pertaining to food and drink. For example, people living in colder climates desire more heating and hot drinks than people living in hotter climates. They also desire cooling devices such as air conditioners more than people in warmer regions. Similarly, people living in hotter areas tend to consume a greater amount of cold drinks and ice creams compared to other parts of the world. Writing a list of your worries closes down emotional brain areas. There is something about writing that helps your brain organize thoughts. For example, if you write a list of worries before bedtime, it can help you relax and sleep better because it shuts down the emotional areas of your brain. When you have your worries on paper, you don't need to keep thinking about them subconsciously. You might even find yourself falling asleep with a pen in your hand.